Hello, hello, and welcome to Awaken Your Human Design. My name is Moni. This is Danny. We got some transits for you, and thanks for hanging out and liking and subscribing and watching with us.
Yes, and our transits tonight of 49 and 4 have a really interesting story behind it, especially 49. We're going to spend a little time on that one.
Ooh, I'm excited.
hmm
So here we can see it on our mandala wheel. We have the sun in gate 49, which is revolution, and this is a solar plexus gate. And then the earth in gate 4, which is formulization, and that is an Ajna gate.
Yeah, together, these things are far apart, but it connects. And what it says is the principles and the logic that helps bring about those principles, they're matched, they're married together. It says that principles has a logical process part of it. It's not just based on like some mores or essences of things. It's not just a belief system. Principles are not just a belief system, they're also a logic system.
That's really interesting because 49 is a solar plexus gate. That's what the revolution Danny is talking about. And then gate 4 up in the Ajna, it's part of like logical circuitry. So that's really interesting to think that like our principles as like a tribe have this basic basis of logic.
Yeah, and the principles, they let you in or they don't, so we'll leave it. We'll see into that on the next slide.
All right. So here we have gate 49, which is revolution or the gate of principles. Ideally, the transformation of forms based on the highest principles and not simply for power. This is an emotional solar plexus gate. It is tribal circuitry. So the keynote for tribal circuitry is support, and it's part of the ego circuit specifically. And gate 49 links up with gate 19, which is approach, and the 1949 make up the channel of synthesis. Gate 49, it's the principles of acceptance or rejection. It's marriage, divorce, and ultimately revolution. It's directly a result of living with tribal hierarchies, and it's influenced by the emotional wave. And it's sensitivity or insensitivity toward other people and their specific needs based on a resonance with your own principles.
Yes, and that resonance also has to line up with 19. The synthesis is is literally the making of the thing that is the pressure of 19 to want and bring in to the tribal, basically
Mm.
the whole tribal scene. And then the revolution, the principles. What's funny about these principles is the principles themselves, they're based in a logic system, but they're deeply felt. They cannot only be, logical, but principles do have, aspects of logic. No, 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 we reject you. We don't like your principles. That's technically logical, and why and reasons will come out just like a logical process would speak. And it means it has to be shared as well, because of that. So I must share these principles. That's a driving force in the principles. Principles don't exist alone. And so 19 has to come along and give the fuel for it. Otherwise, 49, with all the awareness that it is, has what it knows, but it doesn't have the rest of the circuit or the juice from from the root center to go ahead and make it happen. So 49 says quite deeply, I will marry you, and then there will be these principles, and then I will accept these things, or I will reject you, and you won't have a place at the table. And it can get quite dark because then this is one of the gates of blood, like in the 51-25. Um, Except this is more of the butcher. This principle, helps. This is one of the principles that speaks directly to the animal kingdom, and our ability to herd animals are these principles. We'll keep you safe, but every once in a while we're going to take one of you for dinner, and you get to live out most of your whole life, no wolves, but at the same time, we're your wolf. It's just that we're nice about it. Um, essentially, that's the
Like
bargain.
life and death is going to happen anyway, but now
Yeah,
we're inserted into that and kind of managing it. And
right.
like as opposed to in the wild where animals are just going to like, get bitten off or
Kill and
whatever.
be killed. Right,
Now
exactly.
it's here, you can live a little longer, your offspring, you can
Your kids,
reproduce, and yeah, eventually we're
and
going
we'll
to eat
even feed you. Yeah,
them.
and it'll be nice. All this stuff. So basically, this is what ends up happening with 49, and its capacity to reject is an emotional process. It's not the spleen immediate, which guarantees the potential for survival in the now. And it's not the toy box called the ajna that holds on to something over all of time. This is a cyclical process. It becomes emotionally aware. In its darker times, the principles go dark. We've seen that. And when it gets dark enough, you just know what happens. It's not good. That blood spills is the thing. And the revolution comes when the principles just aren't right. The American Revolution, the French Revolution, revolutions all over the place, technically. Even today, there's a revolution of certain sorts going on. And that revolution is based on the fact that line one, as this enters into this line one of this thing, that basically it knows it can't go it alone. The principle to know that revolution does not happen in a vacuum. My principles not go without the greater community support and without the energy of 19. Without the energy of 19, 49 is just sort of dead in the water. All it can do is have its emotional wave and hopefully come to clarity, but without 19, so it needs that. So 49 is a very serious gate. It makes very serious decisions that have a great deal of impact regarding loyalty, regarding you bring the right stuff to our tribe, regarding you have the right principles and the right ways about you. And I'm not afraid of you, so you can come eat at our table. It's a big deal. Humanity's doing this in an emotional process. So I find that incredible, tempered with logic. Yeah.
Cool. That was great.
Words. Yeah.
All right. I'm glad we got them recorded. Ready to dive into gate 4?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So the Earth in gate 4 is youthful folly, or the gate of formulization. This is the energy to beguile and succeed despite ignorance and freedom from retribution. It's an Ajna gate. It's part of collective circuitry. So collective think sharing is our keynote. It's part of the understanding circuit specifically. And gate 4 links up with gate 63, which is doubt. And the 63-4 make up the channel of logic. Gate 4 applies mental awareness to questions fueled by doubt about the future, formulating logic's answers. Each answer is a formula, and it's only a potential. It must eventually be tested and substantiated by facts. Ultimately, the answers you formulate are designed to be applied to questions that come from people around you.
Yeah, and so think about it. We're so used to explaining this logical process through the logical circuitry. And while that's absolutely correct, we need it, this logical process is also tied to an emotional process. I find that, amazing. So this youthful folly, it's so good. You look at youthful folly like tra-la-la, tra-la-la, tra. Oh, Danny, it didn't blah, 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 but don't worry, you're not in great big trouble over it. Okay, tra-la-la.
It's very lighthearted. Yeah.
But serious business, because it's trying to take doubt and turn it into something that's like, well, we can work with it. The doubt made me smarter. The doubt made me look at it a little deeper. And then this does come up with conceptual, mathematical, at times, quantitative formalization, tempered by the emotions principles. And when those two things fully separate, sometimes in our scientific world lately, in the past, I don't know how long, decade or so, we've seen a separation. It's like, no, add the humanity back into that, add the tribal support of the ones in the tribe back into that, because it's needed. It says things like certain science stuff isn't really supposed to happen in giant think tanks, only. That's not supposed to be the only main source of stuff, because it's got to deal with 63. It's got to get into the rest of the logical process to explain it all, right? This is about explanation. And it's got to have something to say that's logical, tempered by what should be right, ultimately. So this is supposed to adopt the 4 higher principles part of gate 49. That's one of the biggest things. And so when you get, some evil, wicked, scientists and formalizers, Dr. Mengele, I think he was one of those.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, so that's it. That's the principles have gone away. They've divorced themselves and they haven't allowed themselves. And that's sheer collective action. Let's just see what happens.
Just because you can doesn't mean you should. And it needs to be balanced with the tribal principles of like the ethics of like, is this right or wrong? In the long term, solar plexus principles long term, as opposed to, well, we can do this and we can do this and we can do this, which can be fun. I have one of my best girlfriends has her son in gate 4, and it's always like possibility. Everything's this open possibility. But yeah, on a darker scientific ooky spooky kind of way that can get real weird. Well, maybe we can do this, maybe we could do this, maybe we could do this, but just because you can doesn't mean you should, which then the balance of the 49 is the polarity is like principles and tribe and long duration, hopefully would keep a balance on.
Right. And the good of the tribe. So the good of the tribe is not a collective concern. I mean, it is, I guess it is in certain way. Well, it is when it comes to gate 4. And that's the thing. And so the good of the tribe, though, we know is not always the collective's just like, well, they'll get used to it. Look, I think it's good. I want to share it. It's not quite as personal until it gets to this piece of it. So I find that amazing. If you have gate 4 in your body graph, you've got so many little concepts running through little formulas that have added up to this and that, whereby in gate 1, I mean, in line 1, it's pleasure. It's just pleasure. It's like, oh, this with that, this with that. And you can't really get in any trouble for it. And in line 2, it's acceptance. This acceptance that there's a limitation to this stuff. And because I'm a second line, I don't necessarily want to do anything either. So I'm going to accept that limitation until I'm fully called out. So in one, we got the investigator, and the second one, we've got the one that gets called out and then gets natural at something. You need them both. They're that bottom binary. So that's gate 4.
Cool. Good stuff. All right, moving on, we have our incarnation crosses for the week. First up, we have the right angle cross of explanation, which adds the 4323 to our existing 49. And the right angle cross of explanation, these are the itinerant prophet addressing the principles behind necessity by pointing out what basic needs must be satisfied for all to survive, and its sensitivity to those in need. Then we move on to the juxtaposition cross of principles, which adds the 14 and 8 polarity. And these are revolutionaries ahead of their time, fixed on a principle, often human rights, who are willing to bargain even with God to gain a powerful ally. And finally, we'll move into the left angle cross of revolution, which adds the 14-8 as well. These are the, it's this, gonna edit that out. Next up, we move to the left angle cross of revolution, which is also the 14 and 8. And this is the revolutionary who understands that there can be no peace with an empty stomach. Those who have must share with those who have not.
Talk about a higher principle to universalize. We really are built to be, these incredible creatures that basically we're built to always do the right thing and look towards these higher principles. And it's coming. The more we spread this knowledge, it's amazing. So the revolution really is what's speaking towards what's been explained in the beginning, and the principle sits in the middle to say, okay, since I picked up 14 and 8, let's make it contagious. Let's do some work on it. Let's contribute it. And that contribution becomes I'm contributing what I was just explaining, a day earlier. And then the revolution is, hey, I explained it. I know it. And it's good, or it needs a revolution. And it's that recognition on 49. I love 49. That says this really cool thing. Let's see if I got it handy. Yeah, I love the 5th line of 49. It's this potential sensitivity to the principles needed of others. So that's what it is as it relates to one of the highest expressions of what this hexagram does. And so that's worth explaining. This is a beautiful movement of crosses. Let me explain the principles. They are principles, and believe me, I will externalize them. And since we've externalized them and agree, there will be revolution if you don't agree to leave us alone, essentially, and or do it the right way, and or fill our bellies, basically. So.
Well, deep.
Yep.
All right. Finally, we have the hexagrams for the week. We have the sun in gate 49, which is revolution, and this is lake over fire. And it reads, in the center of the lake, there is fire, radical change. A noble one calculates the heavenly signs and clarifies the seasons. The new king must realign the calendar with the stars, bringing his people's daily activities back into harmony with time. The light of awareness is at the center of things, clear and unambiguous as starlight, and the calendar gives its expression. Inner lucidity illuminates and transforms a way of life, not bringing change for its own sake, but restoring a natural harmony.
the restoration of harmony, bringing back in the harmony. It was mentioned twice. The word harmony was mentioned at least twice in what you just read. And I find that an amazing principle. It just speaks to our nine-centered need for communion, which is one of our, incredible principles that's sitting in us waiting to be realized.
Lovely. All right. Then next up, we have the Earth in Gate 4 formulization, and this is mountain over water. It's interesting. In the I Ching book, it reads as not knowing is the title of it. And the image reads, below the mountain, spring water comes forth, not knowing. A noble one nourishes character with the fruits of action. The pure spring rises under the shelter of the mountain. It doesn't know where it's going, yet its flow becomes steadily deeper and stronger. In the same way, a noble one nurtures personal character and strength with the fruits of going forward and taking action. Learning comes from experience, not in the form of ready-made answers.
It's the experience that the formalization has to keep formalizing until it gets it, because otherwise the formula just sits in a vacuum. The formula's in a vacuum until someone mixes this with that and says, oh, it doesn't blow up, formula, or whatever the thing is. We need this amount of stuff on our road so it holds together, formula. And it doesn't happen until they lay it down and see it holds together. So this thing is the mountain over the water. I think it makes sense, and it makes sense that these two things go together. I love the way the hexagram looks. What is that? So the mountain and the water. So if we look at this as you were describing earlier, what would you say that would be the yin over the?
So for looking at the hexagrams, you could split them in the bottom three and the top three. So the bottom three as water, it's the middle sun, because the middle. Of the three hexagrams of water, the middle one is the yang, which is the masculine. So it's the boy, the middle sun, the masculine, in between the two feminine, because the water is feminine and it's like overtaking him. Water is the abyss. So the bottom one is the middle sun. And then the top trigram, where it's mountain, where it's the feminine, and the masculine on top, then that's the youngest sun, because the third line is the youngest, because we go from the bottom up. So it's feminine, masculine. So it's the youngest son of the trigram family.
But then you put the fourth line of this, which is yin, you put over the
water.
Put over the middle sun, the yin over the middle sun, somehow or other.
Yeah. So if we're looking at the bottom four lines, side note, I'm for our audience to understand why we're talking about this, I'm working on presentations to go into the trigrams and explaining hexagrams and how human design comes up with them and why do these lines even matter. So I was talking to Danny about this before our recording. So I'm also diving into the godheads of human design. And so that's when you have the four bottom lines. So with that, it would be the bottom three, which is water, the middle sun, and then the line on top of that is yin. So it'd be the yin externalization over the water.
Got you. Yep. So this is our thing. So what can we expect? I'm still figuring what you said, Moni, by the way. It's still calculating.
Oh, I'm still processing through as I'm deep dive studying this, which is why I love making these presentations and talking about it, because it's like, this is how I'm learning. But
to me, when I was thinking and contemplating this earlier, is because 49 is in the sun, becomes this driving force. I think, what can we expect for this week? We can expect a heightened version of acceptance and rejection. What do you think?
Ooh, bold.
Yep.
It makes sense, because like 49 is the principles, the sun is like the big power player. So like what aligns to your principles and what doesn't? Like who and like do you allow into your tribe, into your personal sphere, right? Whatever you're defined as that, so that's very interesting. And also like in that emotional way, it's like an overtime, because sometimes somebody could annoy you and then you're like, but then you're like, no, they're okay. They're fine. They're a decent person or whatever. And other times, you might think someone's like, oh, they're great. And then you see another side. So I understand why that 49 is emotional and you need to like wait out that awareness. So
this to me, this is a great source of finding out what needed to be explained. To accept or reject the thing needs to come with a logical explanation. And that's what we
Oh.
just got out of, because a lot of the principles that showed up in 49 show up in various things like our judicial system. What I just said is a maxim of law in the judicial system. It's like we have to logically explain it, or else it's not a thing yet.
Mm,
Essentially,
mhm.
like that wasn't part of that contract. You didn't explain that, and judge says, "Oh, I guess not." Yeah, it's not in there. It's
The
logical.
formula.
The formula of whatever it is you think you're talking about here. So it is very logical into this process, but still, it's not meant to be fast. So the acceptance and rejection, you'll start to see, should I not have? Is this part of what I feel are basically the morals of my tribe that we want to bring in? It's a big, crazy ass big decision. It's important, and it can't be made right away. What can be made is wait. So maybe to bring in, to accept, I'm waiting on the acceptance. Don't, allow yourself to wait. Don't just accept the next thing because you're on the high of a principles wave. It feels good. My principles are high. You can come in, Sure, it's an open chat where everyone's going to talk. Oh, whoa, oh, geez, everyone's bickering. Hold on a minute.
Yeah. No,
Something like that.
I've seen that where people want to be very like open and welcoming, and they open their house
Everyone
to
can
all these
talk.
like people, and it's really fun until there's one person where you're like, that
Well,
person
look at
shouldn't be
that
here.
fight.
Yeah. Yeah,
Right.
you have to be aware with who you're welcoming into your tribe, your home, your space, because even though you could have the best intentions, it only takes one jerk to ruin a party.
Now is the time during this transit to hone in on the acceptance and rejection of all the bargains in your life, and who is at the table, and who are you looking at, and who and where does your affection and your love go ultimately. Tribal love is very deep, by the way. It's soaked in loyalty and a type of honesty that just doesn't dare. I dare not tell a lie. 49 and 37. I dare not tell. And 40. You take this whole stream, except for 19 so much. 19 probably can lie just fine. I got what you need. I got what you need. Approach, right? But once you get 49, 37, 40, this is now aware, and don't tell a lie. Don't you tell a swear on a stack of Bibles. Again, more stuff that shows up in our political structures, in our life, and our between your own mother. You can't lie to your mother. You know what I mean? This is a principle, and but if you do, you better make it a logical one that you can explain.
Mm,
And this is where this can go dark. I'm a big fat liar, but I made it logical and I could explain it. And so they believed it. And so be careful of all this stuff because this is a powerful energy.
mm. Wow.
Mm.
Deep.
Wow.
Good stuff. All right. Do you feel good? You feel complete?
I feel good unless there's anything else you want to add about what to expect.
No, I think I feel pretty good about that. I think the only thing maybe it's like with the earth in that place of possibility and grounded in possibility, and the enjoyment and the openness of like, oh, it could be this, it could be this, it could be this, enjoying that. And then through the week, the process as it probably becomes more logical and more formulated and more figured through as you kind of grow through that.
If we want to talk about the mechanic, chances are it could be this, it could be this, it could be this, is very similar to how the emotional wave will pick up a sacral's response over and over and over again until it gets to clarity, and so it would be a clarity assisting process. I would see that. So wait, no giant decisions just because you heard this, you know what I mean?
Don't
Take your
divorce
time.
your parakeet.
Yeah, right. Exactly. There you go. And go feed your cat.
Always. All right. That was really good. That was a good transit. So thank you to all our audience for watching along with us and hanging out. And I love your comments. They make me really happy. And thanks for liking and subscribing. It really helps us, especially as like a new little baby channel. And thanks. And we'll catch you next week.
We will catch you next week, everyone. Much love.